Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for coming and those watching on TV. First order under the mayor's report, I'm gonna turn it over to our tourism director and economic director, Tammy Ruckerhoff, to make the awards for the Arts Council.
Yeah, the art. Mark, you want to come on up? So a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, some of the Hermann Arts Council members and I went to the state capitol, and Hermann was awarded the Creative Communities Award by the Missouri Arts Council. So we had brunch at the governor's mansion, and then at the state capitol we were given two, not just one proclamation, but two proclamations. And we wanted to present them to the city tonight and to recognize the Hermann Arts Council for all of the work that they have done for the many, many years that they've been an organization. So we're not going to read these proclamations. There's a lot of whereases, but we're very proud of the Arts Council, the Hermann Arts Council, and everything that they've been doing. The art walks, more music at the amphitheater, the murals all around town, the beautiful statues. There's music at the bandstand. Help me.
We've got the candlelight parade that we do at Christmas.
Yes.
So we've taken over that, and that went really well this past year. We've got the Heritage Crafts Festival that we run concurrently with MyFest, where we're looking for artists to have some connection to Missouri and Hermann traditional arts. We had that last year. It went very well. We're very proud of how the turnout for that event.
Absolutely.
I think you mentioned the poster contest. We're always looking to expand our circle of artists to participate in that event, because it is a good opportunity to highlight a young artist or artists who have not been, advertised. We're also looking in the future to do more single events. We're working on a plein air event that Hermann used to have, and we're going to try to bring that back. There's been a lot of interest in putting that together. That is artists who set up their easel and paint our scenery. I don't think there's any city in Missouri that tops Hermann for beautiful views, as evidenced by the award that was recently given to us for most beautiful, one of the top 20 beautiful cities in America.
Number 19.
Number 19, yeah. So we have a lot in planning. We're also looking to do things like scholarship for local artists, and we also continue with our grant program, giving grants to deserving artists here in the city.
So thank you to the Hermann Arts Council, who are primarily all volunteers, who meet every month over and over and over again and bring more and more art to our community. And we are very proud of you and very excited that you have been nominated and chosen as the Creative Community Award winner for 2023.
Thank you.
Kathy, why don't you guys hold those two little proclamations up and I'll take a picture. Take your jacket off first. Yeah, you take your jacket off.
Which one would I?
You can hold both,
Like that. There we go.
and I'll get out of the picture.
Is it right side up?
If you're gonna stay, you need to center yourself, Tammy.
Okay.
Shouldn't that be? Okay, look here. And that needs to be, there you go. Here we go. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. It's beautiful, yes.
Thank you and congratulations. Okay, I only have a short, those that watched the meeting or was here last meeting, city administrator mentioned that we got 100% on our audit, and that might have just went over everybody that, okay, but to get 100% on an audit is pretty cool. But this is our 10th year in a row. And I just want to compliment and thank city administrator and everybody that's involved on getting that accomplished, because that's a big deal. It really is. And I think hats off to our people that work in the office and get that taken care of. The other thing is, we've been working for some time, and it will be later on in the meeting here. We have found a home for the muskrat, the boat that Mayor Kerber had acquired, and we are happy we're going to be transferring that to a museum in Oklahoma, and we're making the commitment to continue the educational process that was promised with the captain of the boat and so forth. So we're meeting our what we're supposed to do. But at least we're going to find a home for it where it's going to be on display and be utilized. So that's all I have. City Administrator?
Well, I will pick up where we left off at our last meeting, and that was with a conversation about Amendment 3 and public use of marijuana. So Dave and Chief and myself have looked into that further and have determined that Amendment 3 did not change the fact that public use of marijuana is still illegal. However, at this present moment, any violations would have to go through state court until we get our own ordinances updated to accommodate that. Would you like to add to that?
Nope.
No?
Not other than, so we'll present you with said ordinances, hopefully as soon as the next meeting. And myself and Kevin Richardson, my partner, and our city prosecutor will work on that, and we'll run it by chief and get it ready for you.
Very good.
Okay, so I'm going to make that a clarification. Our law enforcement tax. So remember that was effective October 1st, and we've just received our first deposit. If you'll recall, the county was holding off because one, the first couple of months it trickles in rather slowly, and then I think it's in December or January that they freeze their books to work on their budget, which is on a calendar year. So they told us they'd give us our first, those accumulated collections all together in February. So we've received $24,136.92. If you divided that by the 4 months, it's roughly $6,000. Now, we had been working off of their $1 million estimation for the year, and our 9% of that per month would be like $7,500. So I do expect that to increase as time goes on. A little update on our grant statuses. So, as you will recall, a couple weeks ago we got notification that unfortunately we did not receive the wastewater grant. Primarily because of our demographics, and the average household income was too high to qualify or at least to get our score up. However, I did just receive word last Friday that the park grant that we applied for the baseball field lighting project, we received notification from DNR that our application is being recommended for funding to the National Park Service. So that's kind of gone to phase 2. And now they're going to request additional information from us and perform a risk analysis. And then there is no timeline for when they're actually going to announce the awards, which is making, we're in budget season. It's gonna make budget season challenging, not knowing whether or not we're going to have those funds to work with, as well as the gas grant. We had been told that that was going to be announced February 8th, and then they postponed it to February 17th, and now they're saying they have no timeline for that announcement either. So again, problematic for budgeting, but at least it means that they haven't said no, so there's still hope. The other thing is, last meeting I told you I'd been contacted by Union Pacific, and they were kind of giving us a heads up that they were going to be working on the railroad crossing to the riverfront park. I got confirmation today that they are trying to accommodate us by doing it during the week instead of on the weekends, and to inconvenience fewer people. And so they have confirmed that Riverfront Park will be closed the 7th, 8th, and 9th. of March. So that's a Tuesday through a Thursday. And we will start pushing that on Facebook a few times to try to get the word out. And if any of you want to help us, that would be great as well. But again, that's March 7th, 8th, and 9th, that there'll be no access to the Riverfront Park. Lastly, I'll mention that had some brief communication with Quality Custom Molding, who again is the company who is purchasing the Pretium property, and reached out to them with the easement that we did for Pretium, which will become same thing with Quality Custom Molding. And he just assured me in an email back to me that everything is on course and going well. So that's reassuring too. And I know we're going to get around to talking about the Port Authority, and I can add some to that conversation as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Public Works Director?
Want something to hide behind?
Yeah, makes me feel safer. Put some Kevlar on it. So the street department has been working on a storm drain. You guys might have noticed some gravel at 6th and Market there that's been piled up. We've been fighting a situation there. There's a hole in the top of the culvert pipe. So right now they're going to do a temporary repair, put a little bit of wood over the top of it, pour a concrete patch, and then this summer the plan is when it's a little bit drier and we don't have water to worry about, they're going to dig it up and replace that pipe. They've also been filling a lot of potholes around town as weather allows, and then when it's been raining, as it has been. They've been repairing dumpsters at the shop. The sweeper maintenance is still ongoing. The plan at this point is they'll begin sweeping the week prior to Worst Fest, and then kind of hit and miss until April as things are needed. And then the regular schedule will start in April. They've been making some repairs due to some breaks some water breaks, doing repairs to concrete on Stonehill Highway and near Stark Boulevard on Jefferson. And then I don't know if you guys had seen the boat ramp, but we had a section that had collapsed. It got undermined and collapsed, and they broke all that out and repoured it. It turned out real good, and all is open there. The bids were let for the upcoming street projects. So that'll be the complete rebuild of the 300 and 400 blocks of West 7th Street, the complete rebuild of the 200 block of East 4th Street, and an overlay of 13th Terrace from Highway 19 to Market Street. The park has been continuing replacement of picnic tables and boards that are rotten, painting and so on. They've been picking up limbs and such as the storms come through, getting the baseball facilities ready for the high school's upcoming season, and doing drywall repairs at the Amtrak station. On the gas side, as Trish said, we are awaiting the selection for that PHMSA grant. We're really hoping we get that. That'd be huge. But I drafted our quarterly PSC letter and sent the inspection records in this afternoon for this quarter. And our new gas hire is working on his operator qualifications. The water department on the main that they've just installed on the 400 block of West 7th, they've flushed that water line. The samples were sent to DNR and approved, so they are now working on tapping the service lines so they can move down to 4th Street and tear that one up. The electric department, we've wrapped up some dead end poles in a couple places that we had some change outs. The light bulbs that we had downtown that we had manufacturing issues with, we got those finally from the manufacturer and have changed those all out. They are going to reimburse us for wages and equipment time, and they've offered that to us as cash back or as credit towards more of these replacement lights. We had some of these lights previously and we'd never had any issues with them, so I'm going to go ahead and get some more of the lights with your guys' okay on that, and I'll put that towards converting the Missouri River Bridge to LEDs this coming year. Get that all done. If you guys go down to Wharf Street, we've wrecked out all of our overhead primary down there, so all the electric wires other than secondary are down. The secondaries will have to stay there until customers move their services to underground, but it's kind of exciting to get that done. and that's part of the 200 amp underground tie that will eventually feed sub 3 into the downtown area. And then kind of to the quality custom moldings, as you guys know, Premium Packaging has been sold to them, and during our discussions with QCM regarding utilities, it was asked of us to look into changing our 60% annual load factor requirement in our Power Rate 2 structure from 60% to 50%. So we took that to the Utility Advisory Board. They agreed unanimously to recommend that the Board of Aldermen lower it from 60% to 50%, but they believe it should have the ability to be revisited in the future. I would put, if you guys want to put a timeline on it specifically, I would say 3 years to 5 years, somewhere in that ballpark to revisit this. Lowering the load factor requirement in that Power Rate 2 would apply to any customer that qualifies for Power Rate 2, just as the Power Rate 2 60% qualification previously did. This is just changing the benchmark for that rate. And that is all I have. If you guys have any questions or comments.
No question. Thank you, sir. Keep up the good work. Is there, I don't have any up here. No public comments, Corey?
I received no cards.
Okay. We'll move on to ordinances, sir.
All right, first, bill number 2023-05 for second reading. An ordinance to approve a contract by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and Jeff Ellis and Associates, Inc. for pool management services.
So this is the one, last meeting, we were fumbling around for looking for the amounts, and they were in there, I just couldn't put my finger on them at the moment. They're definitely attached in this gray box on second to last page. It's under $5,000, it's not something we have to bid out every year, but it's for the pool audit fees, which are $1,000 a piece, and then for their lifeguard licensing, which is either $105 for new ones or $75 for renewals.
Any other questions? If not, motion to approve.
I move to approve bill number 2023-05, second read.
Motion is made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, right?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2023-06 for first reading. An ordinance authorizing the execution of a business lease between the city as lessor and C&B Car Wash LLC as lessee.
Everybody, go ahead.
This is for that little area where the vacuum is. It kind of sits in that funky area almost on the street. So that's what this is for. And our custom has been, as we renew these, so there are 3-year renewals, we've been increasing them by $50, which is in this document and has been agreed upon by the lessee.
Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Move bill number 2023-06, first read.
Motion is made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
If you all don't see any cause for concern, if you don't mind second reading it, we could.
Sure, we can do that.
Bill number 2023-06 for second reading. An ordinance authorizing the execution of a business lease between the city as lessor and C&B Car Wash LLC as lessee.
Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
I'll move to approve bill number 2023-06 as second read.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2023-07 and for first reading. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission municipal agreement.
This is for ADA improvements along 19 and 100. Jesse, do you want to add anything to that? They sent us this original drawing, which is not very detailed, and so we requested additional information from them and got all their detailed plans. And Jesse has looked them over, and there does not seem to be any kind of conflict with anything we're doing. There doesn't appear to be any kind of utility problems or relocations or anything like that. So I believe we are.
I don't hate to say anything now.
Okay. Everybody understand? Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion, bill number 2023-07 read.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Does that need to be read second too?
Ideally.
Ideally.
Okay, bill number 2023-07 for second reading. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission municipal agreement.
Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
I'll move 2023-07 second read.
Motion made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2023-08 for first reading. An ordinance to amend Hermann Municipal Code Section 705.120, Public Water System, annual fees for customer service connection.
Any questions on this? Not, do I?
If-
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
If I could explain maybe. So this is the state primacy fee, which they require that municipalities collect for them. And we collect it once a year on the bills, which was, is that last month, Carol, or this month? Last month?
It was, the one that's due was due February 15th.
Okay, and so when that came around, it came to our attention that we had not updated our local code to agree with the most recent increase. So this is just cleaning it up to agree to what the state mandates.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
We did not raise this then.
No, we didn't do
The
it.
state raised it.
The state raised it, yes, that's right. And just for the general public, the residential fees that most people are paying went from $3 to $5.28. The 1 inch or greater went from $7.44 to $21. And the 4 inch size went from $41.16 to $102. And the largest size went from $82.44 to $198. They had not raised them in a while, so I guess that's why the big jump. But thankfully for our residents, it only went up $2.28 a year.
Clear? Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve Bill 2023-08.
And a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. We'll move on to resolution.
The resolution on for this evening is resolution number 1330, a resolution to approve the transfer of ownership of the keelboat Muskrat to the Fort Gibson Historic Site.
So the Fort Gibson Historic Society, I looked it up online. It is a really nice venue. It is an early log fort and stockade from 1820, and then they built some additional buildings from 1840 to the 1870s. And they host all kinds of, living history events, and Fort Gibson itself is a National Historic Landmark. So it's a really quality venue where the boat is going. The city Muskrat Society Committee asked me to clarify, because in our resolution, it's transferring the boat to Fort Gibson, and also there's a statement in there, Dave wrote in there, for the disbanding of the city's Muskrat Society. However, the Muskrat Society nonprofit 501c3, they are going to keep their nonprofit status because they thought they might, it's a lot of work to get a nonprofit status, and so since they had it, their attorney advised them just to keep it, and they were going to do some educational type things in the future. So that is separate from the city, that they're keeping their status with the state, but the city Muskrat Society committee is being disbanded because we will no longer have a boat.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve resolution 1330.
Motion made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. I also would like to make a statement to publicly thank the Muskrat Committee for all the hours they put in trying to find a home that was suitable for this boat. I mean, we had lots of different leads, and they have put many hours into it, and so it's really appreciated. So hats off to them. Okay, old business. Discuss the Port Authority. Well, how would you like to start? The port, as far as the public maybe don't know really what's going on, Montgomery County is formulating a port authority and has invited Hermann to join the port authority. We've had 2 meetings with economic people that are on top of port authorities, and it sounds very good. But myself, still have a lot of questions. They want a pretty quick answer, and anyway, you don't have any discussion that you want to throw out on the table here?
What I've gathered from our previous meetings is, and I may be wrong, but I think Steve, I think that was his name, is just asking if we want to show intent of joining, so they can finish drawing up their bylaws, so they can get to how many board members that the city of Hermann would have in Montgomery. So, yeah, I think that's the only thing that he's requesting at this time. I think it's a good idea. I think we should move forward with it.
Is that how you read his? If we do this letter of intent, are we obligated?
No. Because there will be an opportunity in the future, probably short future, to pass a resolution to officially sign. Well, there's going to be, if nothing else, there's going to be bylaws for this port authority that are going to require a signature. And it's going to require appointments to the board by this board. So there's definitely further action that's going to have to be taken to formalize this. So looking into it, both doing a lot of reading and some calling around, you know, you can't really argue with anything that he presented last Wednesday. I do understand that the state and the Missouri Department of Economic Development are encouraging regions to try to get something like this put together, because you have a business or an industry that's looking to locate somewhere, and of course states are competing against states, and we're all cannibalizing ourselves and lowering taxes and abating taxes and doing all these things to lure these industries to our states. But they come to Missouri and they pass over Missouri because we don't have the readiness to approach an industry to come here. Not necessarily that they have to have, as they call, shovel-ready sites, like smaller industrial parks. They want roads to the lot already, they want utilities to the lot, they want all this, they want the lot flat, they don't have to do any grading. This, not that much detail, but just they may be interested in a 2,000 or 3,000 acre site, but nobody has organized anything to try to get all the property owners together to agree to sell or agree to anything, and if you have to start from scratch. If the authority is created and these port improvement districts are created within the boundaries of Montgomery and the city of Hermann, it'll just put Missouri and our region in particular a little bit ahead of where we are now in terms of maybe luring some of these things. As you might have inferred by some of my questions, I had a concern about what's the level of, not necessarily control, I guess input, the city of Hermann would have. So there's a board that has to have at least 7 members. You figure the Montgomery County Commission has probably already chosen some people or have some people in mind for those positions, but the city of Hermann is not going to get a majority of the 7. I don't know if it's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 or what. Does it matter? Possibly not. But and Tricia was concerned, I think she identified the issue. These port authorities have the authority to do really anything that a city can do or a county in terms of putting packages together to lure these industries. Packages that could include tax abatements or new taxes. A new sales tax or a new property tax would have to be voted on by the taxpayers. So there's, you know, we're not really sticking our necks out there. But what about, and there's lots of the alphabet soup of these incentives, TDDs and TIFs and neighborhood improvement districts and as they say, Chapter 100 bond financing. Well, that's, you create this district and you have a special sales tax just for that district that's 1 or 2% higher than it is everywhere else. Kohl's and Target in Washington is one of those. And so what is the city's ability to control that if the majority members of the Port Authority want to create one of these districts that includes the boundaries of the city of Hermann or maybe the north part of the city of Hermann to go along with the other side of the river and want to propose some of these tax abatement or additional tax plans. Where does that leave you guys in terms of being able to say no to that or Evan? But the idea that I have, and I don't think that it's asking too much, is to say right in our bylaws or in the Port Authority bylaws that before the Port Authority can initiate any tax increment financing or Chapter 100 or Transportation Development District or anything like that that involves abatement or additional taxes, it has to be approved by the City of Hermann Board of Aldermen separately. Call it a cooperative agreement between the Port Authority and the city, in addition to having 1 or 2 members on the board. So make a long explanation short. I think we can protect ourselves or protect the city's interests with something like that. We would have to get Montgomery County commissioners to agree to something like that, but I think it's reasonable.
I don't think it's unreasonable.
You know,
And this is something that's not gonna happen in a year.
no.
I mean, it's,
And maybe even we say that we would like to have that City of Hermann Board of Aldermen approval ability, not only if it's in City of Hermann city limits, but if it's on the north bank of the Missouri River, anywhere, you know, from across the east side of town to the west side of town. That as we kind of drug out of them on Wednesday night, yeah, the Port Authority is at some point along the line is gonna involve a port. And where's the port gonna be? And we may not necessarily want it right there, right across from our riverfront park. So I think there are legal ways to protect the city's interests.
okay. So your recommendation is to go ahead and do the letter of intent?
I would say that it is legal to proceed as we've discussed, and
Okay.
I don't really have a recommendation.
Okay, no problem.
If
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
not comfortable making a decision tonight, I did already tell the chamber director that it may be as a tight turnaround. Our meeting was Wednesday night.
Right.
So it's only been a few days, and we're really trying to do our due diligence. Tammy and I have been working the phones and meeting with people as well.
That's fine.
Just because it's a consequential decision, and once you make it, it's not just like super easy to get out of. And like I said, we want to make sure that we're protecting our citizens and their autonomy. So we want to make sure that we've looked under the hood and kicked the tires and that sort of thing. But again, the decision is yours, and like my mantra always is that I feel like the staff's role is just to provide you guys with as much information as we can so that you can make an informed decision. But if you are ready to make that, that's obviously fine. just one other thought along with this is keep in mind that, and Steve was completely upfront about this, uncertain of the cost, but it is going to cost. So one of the meetings we had today, they were saying that it'll probably be structured like the Economic Development Board, which pays, the way they fund it is it's a per seat, like the $10,000 per seat on the board. They didn't know if it would be that expensive, but it might be modeled something like that. So if we have a seat or two, is it $10,000 or $20,000 a year on top of sharing administrative fees? Now again, Steve threw out a number of like $20,000 a year for like some annual filings and some things like that. I think, and maybe you all will remember better than me, I think he said that if we joined, that we would not be responsible for consulting fees on like the mega site. Is that how you guys remembered it?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be responsible for that, but for any project that I guess that we would do here, if we created some sort of port improvement district or something, those would be additional fees. So just keep in mind that we're looking at, I don't know, $30,000 a year maybe in our general revenue fund to be a part of the Port Authority.
That could be something we could put in the separate cooperative agreement between the city and the Port Authority as well, what you guys just assumed about not participating in any fees from consultants or legal counsel for port improvement districts that are up north, that don't include us at all.
Right.
So they didn't ask for a cooperative agreement, that's what you're recommending?
That's what my idea is, just to give this board some say with these financing tools.
So we got enough time to hold off to the next meeting to make that decision.
Yes, yeah.
I recommend we do that, and while you all do more homework, just in case something comes up that we're not aware of. Don't you think?
Yes, and I think at the next meeting, if you all want to come to that general consensus, and then we would still have the rest of the month of March to do, if you wanted to proceed, to do a formal resolution.
Is that okay with everyone?
I think the longer we put it off, will be longer that we see their bylaws.
Yeah, I
To see
kind of
where we're at.
agree. I mean, I would like to see the bylaws is really the next step.
And they won't have
So
those
the
together.
application, we have did I
Okay,
not?
the application.
Yeah, the application. They said they were still developing that, and it wasn't to a point of sharing yet, but when they got it ready, they would be willing to share that.
And that's the application to the Missouri Department of Transportation, correct?
Yes.
Because they don't really have the bylaws made yet.
I'm sorry, we're getting confused. The bylaws, we have a draft of the bylaws. I mean, they're kind of just cookie cutter kind of stuff. It's the application that they do not have available to share yet.
So they would create, if we give them the go-ahead, they would create the application and we would see the draft application. And from there, we can make a decision.
Well.
That's right. We can't say yes with no information.
Right.
I know, but remember when we put Steve on the spot, he was kind of.
I know, but
Yeah.
so maybe if
Well,
we
they
would say
just-
yes tonight.
That's that
preliminary-
chicken and egg thing.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
How their application is gonna look depends a lot on whether we're participating or not. And so,
Yeah.
and then whether we participate depends on how that's gonna look, so.
If we decide to participate, is there a deadline for us to make that decision?
Yeah, again, they want us to have something formal in March, like a resolution or something, so that they can then revamp their application to include us.
We do bring a lot to the table with the Missouri River, and his eyes lit up when he mentioned the Pacific Railroad as another mode of transportation of goods. So, like I said, I think we have a lot on the table, and I hate to procrastinate and miss the boat, no pun intended there, but the original intent is that we need to show them, hey, we're interested. And we could move forward once the application, hey, maybe MoDOT or whoever won't even allow us in there. I think we should go ahead and submit a letter of intent of interest upon them completing their bylaws and applications, and then we can totally commit yea or nay. We'll receive some benefits if we don't join, meaning if that mega site develops and progresses 15 years from now, or whatever, by people moving into the area. But as he said too, they could also be looking for smaller industries and potential housing development. We just wouldn't have their tools to use. So it's 6 one, half dozen the other.
Well, I think part of the conversation too, Steve, was that they're moving forward with us or without us, and that he made it very clear in that meeting that the Port Authority can incorporate new areas. I don't feel comfortable without, like what Dave had proposed, a cooperative agreement, a letter of intent, especially for the various tax or debt issuing powers, as well as I know port authorities also have the power of eminent domain. That I certainly wouldn't want the city of Hermann facing anything, so anything within the city limits should not, we shouldn't be bypassed. Not this particular board of aldermen, but any future board of aldermen.
Any other comment?
I think giving it a yes, a preliminary yes, now really does nothing. It just kind of gets the ball rolling, and we have some fast and furious fact checking to do before we do a resolution. But I would be fine with giving them a preliminary yes tonight.
I would too.
Gary, is there anything we're not thinking about that you know of?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on most of the items. Part of those would be, I guess I should stand and bring. Part of those, of course, as a couple of you pointed out, is that they're going to proceed one way or the other. On the 20,000 that they were talking about, he was kind of giving those general fees. That those filing fees and such, if I understand when I talked to him before, is that was for the full port. So Hermann would be not bearing the full 100% brunt of that. We would have a portion of that, of course. So we wouldn't be looking so much at like 20 or 30,000 a year, so much specifically for Hermann.
And then per seat was what I was including in there as well. They're going to charge $10,000 per seat on a board.
Exactly. Yeah. So there may be because I don't know if they had decided if they were doing a pay-to-play kind of format or if it was something else, but there would be some funding that we'd have to look at there. I think with the letter of intent, as a couple of you mentioned as well, that gets them putting together enough information for the application. Because again, I think when it gets down to the final part of it, so they're going to get the application in April. But even if everything's moving forward, I don't think everything wouldn't be finalized until even later in the summer. If it looks like that was going to go through, which would then give an opportunity to kind of negotiate, navigate, like how many, because the number of board positions is a minimum of 7. It could be more, so if you had 7, we might have 1 out of 7. If we had 12, we might have 2 out of 12. But it gives us an opportunity to have some leverage on that. And again, I kind of ask you to understand where you're coming from, is that there are certain elements that without having known 100% disclosure and full due diligence completed, we don't know that for sure. My thoughts are, again, is that at least if I'm giving a letter of intent, again, that's not binding to the point that we have to see it all the way through yet. Now, once we get into, I think, the application and then the rollout of it, and at that point we're locked in. But it gives us time to kind of see what those bylaws are. Without being able to get all the way, because I know the ones we got right now, to your point, were kind of cookie cutter. But if we have an opportunity to participate, we at least have an opportunity to influence the bylaws. I think at the initial inception of the Port Authority, we have more leverage today than, say, at a future date of expanding that geographical political district. So at that point, we have a little bit more leverage today. Not saying we're in control, but we have more leverage, I feel, today than we would in a 10-year, 15-year horizon. So just some things to look at is like, how do we mitigate the risk as best as we can? I don't think we'll be able to get it to zero risk, but I think in total, there's probably more upside than downside. So again, the last part is my personal opinion, but based on what I hear from him, we'll have some opportunities to at least influence what's going to be generated if we get involved now.
Thank you.
So, for my clarification, if we do this, I think all they really wanted was a general consensus, but if we wanted to be a little more formal with a letter of intent, I guess where in the process do we tell them our desire to have this cooperative agreement about them, the Board of Aldermen having to approve tax assessments and abatements? Would that come into the process?
I would say like tomorrow. You know, or call Steve and just, well, and you spoke to two county commissioners, right? But only one of them about that question?
One county commissioner and one person on the economic development board.
And so they didn't have any objections necessarily?
I only mentioned it to the commissioner. And he just didn't know.
Well, yeah. I think tomorrow, you know, there's no point in hiding the ball in terms of what we would like to see. And then maybe Steve or somebody can give us a more definite deadline or target date for when they want this resolution, which is, the way I see it, the commitment, right? And is it our first meeting in April? Is it our second meeting in April? Is it by April 30th? So we have a special meeting in there somewhere. I think maybe get that date and then kind of back into today and figure these things out. Maybe we can generally say that we're in favor of moving forward. I mean, if our choices tonight are proceeding or not proceeding, it doesn't sound like we're ready to vote to just not proceed and just say to heck with it. So the vote would be to proceed, and then maybe by next meeting we can have a draft of a letter of intent that has more of this detail in it, and then go from there. And maybe the resolution that's the more final deal even has a copy or a draft of this agreement that I'm talking about attached to it, like we always do, and we, you know, contingent upon the approval and signature of the agreement attached as Exhibit A, and then that agreement is where the, you know, the details are. That's what I'm envisioning.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I think it's, I think it's good. One thing about it is that if it's something you all decide is good, they've done a lot of legwork for forming a port authority, and we did it in kind of easy. You know, what we did learn is that a lot of the tools are actually the same that a port authority has. They are equal to in power to the city. That's important to keep in mind. Our toolboxes are similar. The city has a TIF, they have a port improvement district, which is a similar thing. Something that came up in conversations today was, you know, a lot of our concerns could be allayed if they would agree to this cooperative agreement, again, about the city consenting on a lot of things. So yeah, I guess if that would allay your concerns. I guess future boards, that's what I was gonna say, is that, what came up in conversations today was that future boards are unknown. And right now, you know, they're really confident they have this, you know, this great group, and of course, Steve is very trustworthy and has a great reputation, and the people they're assembling are pretty great people. But, you know, 10 or 15 years down, you know, that board, just keep in mind, that board's gonna change and people are gonna change, and so that's why I think the city would be better served by having this cooperative agreement.
If I could just add one more thing, layer to that, Tricia's, and I think you hit on it. the Port Authority has the same political powers as the municipality, city of Hermann does. And I think we need to proceed slightly cautiously, not slightly, a lot cautiously, to make sure we have those safeguards, because I don't think we want, if we are part of the Port Authority, have a minimum or minority vote on this Port Authority. We don't want Montgomery County making decisions for the city of Hermann.
That's a very good point. Yes.
But too, if they want to leverage it, and he said they wouldn't, I guess the gentleman's agreement here that they wouldn't, but if, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if they want to propose a tax, that has to be approved by our voters. Port Authority can't say, here, we're gonna add a 1% tax. It has to go before the voters of the city of Hermann. So then that's when we could use I hate to use the word, but political power and say, you don't wanna vote for that. We can come out against that. So there's another safeguard there too.
Sure, that's very true.
Okay.
Can we add in our letter that we'd love to see a draft application before we give them the resolution? Sounds pretty reasonable.
All right, so if I understand right, you want to go ahead with the letter of intent?
So I think what Dave, the timeline Dave was laying out was a consensus tonight, a letter of intent at the next meeting, and then potentially a resolution in a subsequent meeting after that.
Okay, letter of intent, next meeting.
So do you
Oh,
want to
that's
ask
fine
if
with
there's
me.
a-
They're the ones got to make
do
the
you want to
decision, not
ask
me.
them if there's a general consensus among them tonight?
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
Very
they're
good.
all in agreement, so we're good. Any other old business?
I do have one I'd like to bring up, and this goes back to a meeting or two ago. Haley, that's here at the audience, made a fantastic presentation to the board, very professional, visual aids, verbal aids, it was great, on the SRO. And I believe it's not a question whether we need it or not, it's how we could afford that. And that's the world today, is where does that money come from? Not to sound like a info commercial, but I have an idea that wouldn't cost anybody any money. Of course, the final thing would be in the hands of the voter. And we can make Haley's vision and idea become reality. And that is on April the 4th, with the voters selecting yes on the marijuana tax, that we, the board, give a commitment to the citizens that we would dedicate, reallocate, put in a special fund, that tax money to be used for compensation training of an SOR.
That's a good idea. Do we have any idea what that tax might be?
Well, my research I looked at is the state of Missouri, the opening weekend was $550 million in sales. Medical marijuana versus recreational marijuana, recreational was 2 to 1 on the dollars.
Right.
You know, like $3 million, boom, opening day. So I think it will go places. By using this, we can save tax dollars for our school district, our city tax dollars. The citizens won't be paying this unless they partake in the purchase of 3 ounces of recreational marijuana. But it's kind of like, I hate to say it, free money. And why not invest in the safety and future of our generations to come, that some may be sitting in these chairs. So I'd ask for a commitment. I know we can't guarantee it, but talk to your supporters, your friends, your families, same with the school district. I've talked to the chief about it. Dr. Neal said that he believes, probably without a doubt, the school board would be 100% behind it. The chief, I talked to him, laid out my plan, he's behind it. And if we can get a commitment to our voters saying, hey, this is what your government body intends to do, spread the word, and we can get this passed.
Would that have to be on the ballot?
It is on the ballot.
No, I mean the wording that the money goes towards.
From what I researched, it's a tax that may be used, if passed, by the municipalities as they feel fit.
I believe that, I'll have to check into it.
I was just,
Yeah. Like I said, ultimately, the citizens are gonna have to find a word.
yeah, no, sounds good to me.
But we all agree, and then we can move forward and pass a word on, this is what we intend and will do. You know, make Haley's idea reality.
Very good.
Is this something we can share like on social media too?
In printed newspapers, because another vision I had, I kind of shared that with Buck a little bit, is I'd like to see Hermann be a leader. And maybe our sister Owensville, they have an SRO already, but if they could use this and implement it in Owensville or even Montgomery, wherever, that will free up their school tax dollars and the city tax dollars. So it could be a widespread win-win-win situation.
Well, currently, right now, we're the only, we only have the only business in Gasconade County that has, you know,
The
a
South
dispensary.
End is getting one.
Okay.
Sounds good. You all,
It's on their election also for the sales tax.
Okay.
any other discussion on that?
Do we even know that tax would cover that SRO or?
But that's why I said, how do we know how much it is? That's why
I feel like I can't commit to anything until I
Well,
know
we
more
can't.
information.
We can't commit until the voters say yes. If they say no, then we gotta drop back to plan B.
I think it's a great idea, just
And
the word
we'll have to
commit.
see how much it produces
Yeah.
and how far that will get us towards
Yeah.
that end.
It's kind of like a letter of intent.
There you go.
It's intent, not commitment. But it's intent, if it passes with
We're there for
intent.
you, bud.
But it's a way to utilize and give back to our community.
No, I agree,
I
that
think it's a
sounds
great
good.
use of funds.
Good idea.
And her idea got my mind working. Not on why I couldn't do it, but how I could do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Any other old business? Any new business?
I have some new business. In October, someone had a heart attack on our pickleball courts, and there was no AED. That person was fine, everything worked out, but a lot of the older people that play pickleball have been asking if we could get an AED. So, Park Board, and I'm their liaison, we're working on trying to find some funding. We're asking if any of the civic organizations would like to help us purchase this AED. We'll put it near the tennis courts. There'll be signs throughout the park saying we have an AED. It will be monitored with a video camera. It'll have a system on it that if the door is opened, an alarm goes off and there's notification of it. So we're working on getting that. So if anyone out there wants to make a donation to it, please let me know.
AED is an automated external defibrillator. I say that because I was a trainer for those too. And if it can save one life, it's paid for itself.
Yep.
And it's easy to use. It walks you through every step. It tells you if you need to hit that button or not to shock someone's heart. We have a great ambulance district, but if they're all out on something and there's another emergency, it's another thing that can help save someone's life.
3 to 5 minutes is the time frame you have to establish that electric shock to impulse that heart. CPR will work, and that'll get you going too, but the AED will be almost simultaneously.
Hook it up and stand clear.
That's right.
Chances of getting shocked are slim to nil, but, and maybe we can get the ambulance district to help hold some
Well, there's
funds.
Now, there would be some,
things
you would
too.
have to do training, you know, for all the people that are playing would be the idea, but
Training
good
is
idea.
not required, but is recommended.
Yeah.
Susan, do you guys have a home for that yet?
We're tentatively looking at the side of the firehouse on the, I'm gonna do my north, southeast,
West.
on the east side of the west side of the
West side.
building.
Okay. If for whatever reason you guys want a little closer, somewhere there's power there, the meter rack for that tennis court is in concrete on Unistrut, so it would be.
So it could handle 24 volt and,
Yeah, and you could mount it right to that Unistrut. It'd be right outside the gates.
okay. When we get all of our funding, and I know we will because we have to take care of all of us, we'll talk about that.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business? If not, we'll move to motions. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I move to approve the February 13th minutes.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Invoice for payments.
I move that we pay the bills.
We have a motion to pay the bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Outdoor seating permit renewal for the Hermann House, 234 East First Street.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approve police records destruction in accordance with the state retention law. Have a motion to approve?
Can I ask how, never mind, so,
Go ahead. You can ask anything you want.
I'm good, I saw the number.
But anyway, these are much like we do for the administrative records that by state law, when we dispose of things, we have to mention them in the minutes. So we will attach a full list of this in the front record.
Okay. Now do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approve low bid for Little League shirts from ARB signs, t-shirts and more, and welding photos for pictures.
I move to approve the bid for t-shirts and photos.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Approve the low bid of $48,009 from Hermann Ford for the F-350 snowplow truck.
So I could just add here that, unfortunately, Ford quit accepting the state bid contracts, which kept us from having to go out and individually get bids from people. So Todd did go and individually get 3 separate bids, and thankfully, our local dealership was still the lowest. So it worked out, but it's unfortunate that they don't accept state bids anymore.
Okay.
So every time you'll have to go through the process.
So this will actually be the same truck you passed at the last meeting. It's just, they couldn't honor the last bid because, and they didn't even know it Hermann Ford. That Ford had quit accepting the government bids.
Yeah, I pulled it off last agenda, so they weren't right at the last minute because of that,
Doing
so
that,
they weren't
okay.
aware, yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the truck?
I'll move to approve.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Festival event application for the Friends of My Fest Amphitheater and Schiller Street from 1st to 4th with requests for open containers to be allowed May 19th through the 21st, 2023.
Will they have people at those streets like they did for other things to make sure that people are staying within the barriers?
I don't think they clarify that in here.
I think only thing they've mentioned on there, they would have signs there at the intersection of East 4th and Schiller, and then 1st and Schiller.
I have a slight problem with Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's 3, one of those being a business day, and not every business on Schiller Street is directly involved with tourism that this is going to adversely affect their business.
Does anybody know, is Friday just for setup? Is it just late in the afternoon that they start closing things down?
I don't know for sure, but that is what I do suspect.
Hasn't it been that traditionally?
Yeah.
I think so.
On the application, it just says
It does.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'm just,
It does, maybe we need to make that more specific.
Could we pass it and maybe say close as of, I don't know, 7 p.m. on that Friday?
There's a little thing, it says like over 19, it says set up, 20, and then 21, it says take down.
Yeah.
That was, I read that to be the amphitheater, because that's what they mentioned.
Yeah.
I go along with what Ash says. Of course, everybody knows where I stand on the open container. That's a no. That's what our city ordinance says. To me, that's pretty clear. And also, we all know that our parking in historical downtown Hermann is limited. By closing down 3 blocks, which includes the alleys, we're gonna lose 60 to 70 parking spots, counting 10 on each side of the street. And we got 3 blocks, so there's 60. By blocking the alleys, and I know we went through this before, you know, we do have guest houses, and we have them to have off-the-street parking. A lot of these guest houses have their off-the-street parking in the alley. And we all know our alleys are maybe 10 foot wide, so it's not open to 2 lanes of traffic. So we may end up losing that off-the-street parking, because just imagine if you come down off of Market Street, you come down, would be 2nd Street Alley, 1 car is it, and if there's no place to turn around in there. I mean, you're committed. You can't come out on the Schiller Street. I would like to see this take into consideration to move it to the riverfront part. Open containers are allowed down there. The amphitheater to use it anyhow. Well, we have that large parking lot down there that, yes, we can get the trucks off of there, where we don't immobilize one of the main arteries, Schiller Street, for tourism. Mayafest brings in 50,000 people. Why give up 60 or 70 parking spots?
What if we compromise and say that the street closures would start at 7 p.m. on Friday and the open containers only be Saturday and Sunday? Usually once the parade goes through, aren't they pretty much done anyway and shutting down? So could we say till the parade starts or something?
I would say yes, but I've not been at their committee meetings, so I can't say for sure.
I mean, because we've always closed for the festival.
Yeah,
on
Market
those
Street
streets.
too, years ago, it was always Market and Schiller.
When the JCs were doing this on that Friday and Saturday, the vendors generally didn't show up till around 4, and that's what it was all set up Friday. They didn't operate. Now, I'm not saying maybe that's not the case here, but for all the years the JCs took it over, it was simply they were setting up Friday so that they could open Saturday.
I'm okay with that time frame, you know, Friday evening, setting up, you know, or even, you know, operating, and then Saturday and Sunday. I will say that I am with Jim on the open containers. You have 4 operations on Schiller Street that already serve alcohol. Why do we need it in the street?
It'll be barricaded.
And by state law, city law, remind them that those places that have a liquor license are prohibited from leaving that drink come out off of their property. And how are you gonna get into the street with an open container if you're in front of a liquor place? So we're gonna entice that to happen. It's gonna cause that man a nightmare.
Don't we allow open containers in the amphitheater?
The
Yes.
amphitheater, because it's gated.
Yeah.
Amphitheater and the riverfront are excluded from the open container law.
I think as long as the MyFest has been going on, as long as I've lived here, and it used to be 4th Street too, you know, the streets are closed up. This is what we do. I mean,
I remember doing the maypole dance there, but that
at
was
4th and Market, or 4th and Schiller.
between 4th Street and 3rd Street on Schiller. That's where our classes sang German songs and did the maypole dance. So, but that was just 1 block. Where we're talking about.
I agree with, you know, maybe a 4 o'clock on a Friday evening where they can start setting up for their Saturday. You know, if they want to open Friday night, I don't have a problem with that. And Saturday and Sunday, like you say, once the parade goes through, they start wrapping up, you know, or that has been in the past.
I know there were complaints from business owners and guest house owners along Market Street that they couldn't get deliveries and their guests were having to walk a while with all their suitcases and stuff to get places.
Well, the thing is, like I say, this has been going on for how long?
Right.
When you bought that property, shouldn't you do a little research of what goes on around the property that you just purchased? I mean, I'm not trying to be
Right, I know.
nasty, but I'm
And
just
some of
saying.
these are newer guest houses.
I think, maybe you can help me, didn't the committee get behind the 8 ball and not get the door hangers out that year?
Yeah,
I think that was
the
the
complaint
problem.
was from a First Friday Art Walk, I believe, and they only had like a
Yeah.
2-day turnaround time to get that information to those businesses. I think for My Fest, those businesses along Schiller are just going to, perpetually assume that Schiller Street will be closed. Now, the open container issue is on you, but they may be having some vendors also that are serving alcohol, not that they would necessarily be going into a business and taking a drink out.
Now, the food trucks, because if we get another one come up, by ordinance, food trucks are prohibited from selling intoxicating liquors. And then they have to have a business license, and then they have to be inspected. I know it's not within our wheelhouse, but the county has to inspect them.
So something to keep in mind is consistency. So for the last 2 or 3 years now, maybe more, we've been doing witches and wine with open containers, and their whole event is centered around wine and open containers.
Drinking.
My Fest, the last year or two, somebody tell me if you know exactly, you have granted the open container, and has there been another?
It's been longer than that.
Has there
we
been
had
another
open
event,
container
something else that
for
we?
My Fest.
First Friday had it.
First Friday Art Walk.
Yeah.
You tried that one
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
as well.
No problem.
So just for consistency's sake, I would just keep that in mind, whatever you decide.
And I think you can still have a food stand or alcohol stand. It doesn't necessarily, that you can sell alcohol out of a 10 by 10, it doesn't, but a food truck is a different definition than a food stand.
Anything else?
If they're gonna sell out at 8 by 10 or whatever, they have to have a state and city liquor license.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Tom, do you have something?
Unfortunately,
Make it quick, it's getting late.
I will. Riverfront Park has probably at least 60 parking spots, which you would eliminate, and so that kind of blows that. The alleys have accesses to Gutenberg and Market, which gives the off-street parking people a way out. And I think if you'll check with the chief, there has been little or no problems with open containers during festivals. Okay.
Do they know?
And also one thing that in the past, the organizers in this, Second Street, that street has to be open where the fire department can have access to get out. And so they've been pretty good about that, So Second Street, they put horses up, so it's not open for local traffic, but
They don't have booths.
fire department has to have access that they can respond to a call if they have it.
So all of Second Street are you talking about, or what are you saying, from Schiller to?
I'm saying that when they're doing Schiller Street, they can't set vendors up. They gotta make sure that crossing is
open.
and they put horses like this, so you can drive like this with a fire truck.
Okay.
We have to have emergency access for the fire department.
That'd probably be a good idea for any intersecting street, not just Second, but Firehouse is there, but in case we got a fire on Third Street, that should be eliminated from a setup.
Well,
Same principle.
I'm just saying that allows them to get out. It's just had an incident on Schaefer's Branch today. They couldn't go down Fifth Street because there was trucks working, so you have to reroute. But at least they have one artery to get out, and then they can maneuver to go where they want to go.
Okay, so could I make a motion that we approve it with the street closure starting at 4 p.m. on Friday, running through a certain time on Sunday, and that the week before the event, they have to make sure they get door hangers out so everybody has plenty of notice and they can let their guests know, hey, this street's gonna be closed, so you might wanna come earlier, or here's another place to park, and we have on-street parking.
I think that's a great idea.
It's not bad. I think maybe they need to bring back to us proof, and they did that with the art council. They did contact the different businesses and they signed off on it.
I don't know how they did it.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
And that they
What-
can have open containers only on Schiller and only at the amphitheater. So once you come off Schiller and you're walking down the amphitheater, you can't be walking up and down through there with stuff because we said Schiller.
Did you get our motion there, Corey?
Yeah.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay,
Nay.
that's
Yay.
why you got the hammer.
Well, I'm in favor of it.
Well, and I have to say, it's been more than 2 or 3 years that we've had that street closed, because I can remember sitting down there when, the Honey Mead people set up downtown on Schiller Street. And we had tacos, and I think we tried the wines, so it's been longer than that.
If we're doing it for Witches and Wine, we have to do it for My Fest with the history of My Fest.
Well, it's approved. I broke it. All right, thank you. Festival event application for historic Hermann, historic tintype photography and reenactor display at 312 Schiller Street on May 28th, 21st, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
This is during my fest also, so I move to approve it.
Motion's made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application, Jenna Thompson, fall market including food and alcohol vendors, amphitheater, parking spaces, green space, and street closure requests. See the application for September 29th and 30th.
Now, on the amendment, is it for 5th and 6th Street by the amphitheater? Or is it just?
Well, yeah,
It's
I
just
think
history.
the open container alcohol is in the amphitheater, and what they want is this parking area over here for jump houses and
Petting zoo and stuff.
petting zoo and stuff like that, if I understand it right.
Because on the application it says 5th Street, but then on the amendment they have 6th Street circled.
I think that's a boo-boo.
Yeah, I think so too.
Or a mistake.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it
Yeah,
wasn't 5th
it's
and
six-
6th
No,
Street.
just 6th Street, I'm pretty sure.
Just 5th Street or just 6th?
Six.
No, fifth.
Five.
Fifth. Sixth Street would be across the
Yeah.
dilapidating bridge down there.
5th Street, straighten me out, get me straight. 5th Street,
It's Fifth Street.
That's Fifth Street.
indenture slip.
No, this is 6th Street, because here's the
Say the
Fern Creek
difference.
Bridge.
5th
That's
Street.
Fifth Street.
Yeah, Fifth Street.
That is Fifth Street, Ash.
Yeah, that little bridge goes by the city
No way.
shed. Yeah, wait.
Sixth
Yes, sir.
Street's over here behind the city.
We'll go for a ride after a while.
All right.
I grew up on Fifth Street.
Okay.
Fifth and Church.
Ah, do I have a motion to approve?
I will make a note again on this, as I just previous did. I know they mentioned food trucks. Food trucks are prohibited by ordinance from selling of intoxicating beverages, and when it comes to open containers within the confines of the amphitheater, fine. But if they come on the streets, I cannot go along with it.
Well, I'm assuming the alcohol vendors are in, like they do with the music and so forth, they'll set up those little canopies and sell their
Well,
alcohol
I
within.
think the way I read this is that they're gonna be in the parking places with a fence around them so that they're only open to the amphitheater side, right?
Which is consistent with the Jazz Festival, which is consistent with the hospital's Butchwicks and all.
So it's running along the sidewalk of the
Correct.
amphitheater.
Correct.
And they
West
mark it
side.
off with sawhorses or cones.
Yeah, so you
Yes.
can only enter into the, enter and exit into.
She was here a long time ago.
Yeah, she
A
was.
long time ago. We told her
August
all
of
that.
22, yeah.
So,
That was the same thing with 2022,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As long as that's the case, then yes.
I think it's a neat idea. I just want to point out our ordinances that I'll support.
I'll second it. You made the motion, right?
No, I won't make the motion.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made, now you can make the second.
Okay, I'll make a second.
Motion's made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Okay, special event application for Blake Granneman Memorial Scholarship Sesquicentennial Park fundraising dance and beer garden, September 30th, 2023. They're gonna utilize JC's tent, so it'll be fenced in area.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Do I have no reports? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made, and second.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for watching and being here. Be safe out there.
A lot of the fast